why should we preserve it in the modern world? Because we are in the modern world, we need all the more reason to know our roots and also let good thoughts come from everywhere, and we should absorb that.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
I am Murugayan from First Become CA. This is my question. Can we at least integrate water bodies belong to the nation and state authority has no power to rule?
Can you please say that again?
Sir, can we at least integrate water bodies belong to nation and state authority has no power to rule?
Water body. Okay, I think that is a very different issue from the topic, which is on looking at the past. But I think I get it, because we are on the Kaveri basin, and I think some of people like me who have gone to the other side of the Kaveri, there has always been a fight between these two sides. So yeah, I think national assets like this, whether it's water, other, things which are important for modern living, should be centralized so that there is greater equity among people.
So we can avoid the dispute in the distribution of water from the one state to another.
Correct. I think nobody owns these resources. As I said, these borders that we draw, they are, after all, just lines on a piece of paper. But you can't direct the flow of river, air, where the hill falls in which side of the border. So there has to be equitable distribution in a way that both societies, it is not someone's right being deprived and given to somebody else, or someone not getting anything at all. Just think of it even as a family. If there are 2-3 children and the mother has very limited means, she will ensure that every child gets his or her portion to eat and sustain themselves. So I think that is how government or rules need to be, so that these disputes that keep coming, I don't think that does good to anybody. This kind of regionalism, this parochialism that we have. And we have to look at also conservation of water, which is so important. And like I mentioned even in my talk, we have always worshipped these river bodies. They're not just a river for us. They've been worshipped as the mother. Just as we don't defile our mothers, I think the way we purify our rivers, don't throw all kinds of garbage into it, industrial effluents that go into it. We've seen how the Yamuna is, right, full of foam, with all the effluents coming out. Even the Ganga, there's constantly purification. So distribution, taking from it is one, but also keeping these river bodies, water, is very important. In fact, some people say the next global war will be on water, because that is something that is a finite amount. The Indian Institute of Science had come out with a study which said by 2030, Bangalore would become an unlivable city, because its water bodies, the amount of groundwater that is being pulled out and taken, it cannot sustain the entire population as it grows. So looking from our past, our scriptures, our historical accounts as to how water management was done, I think that is also an important lesson we can learn from how our kings and others, whether it was Cholas or even in Bangalore. Bangalore used to be called the city of lakes. Kempe Gowda, who was the person who founded it, it was called a Kalyana Nagari, where Kalyanis were there everywhere, these tanks. Today, all of those have been, lakes have been dried, and in its place, lake view apartments have come, where you reclaim the lake and on it you build an apartment. And that is why every time it rains, water has its own muscle memory. It will go down and it will submerge. So all our cities are coming up with flooding, urban disasters. So I think a very comprehensive national policy on water conservation, water purification, and equitable distribution. I think that is very important. Thank you for raising a very important question.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste, sir. I am Yalini from First BA English. My question is, in what ways did Indian language and scripts carry cultural and historical identity?
Excellent. That's a wonderful question. When a child, starts learning to speak, probably the first word it learns is amma, and it learns its basic things. How does a child which is just born, how does it get to understand what the adults are talking? That is why it's called the mother tongue, which comes so naturally. That has the flavor of the mother. So the man vasane, what they would say, the true culture of the land, it flowers through the language. Every part of India has various fragrances, and so that is why these languages become so important. And I am very conscious that the language I am talking in is an alien language to all of us. It was imposed on us, and the same thing if I were explaining in Tamil, or back home if I were explaining it in Kannada to people there, I think the impact itself would be so deeper because people can relate to it more. Languages represent the best of the culture of that land where it has originated. Just as a child learns to speak the first words in the language without any effort, the child doesn't have to go to a coaching class to learn that language. You learned maybe Tamil naturally. It came naturally to you. All other languages, you need a period to learn English or Hindi or something which is not, which is not your own. It is alien to you, but your own mother tongue, it comes very naturally. So I think you can preserve, the first question what she asked, you can preserve that culture which is so important, and for that language is quintessential. And we can see how does a language flourish. Today there are a lot of fights about language. In Tamil Nadu you have been always having this about Hindi imposition, and likewise today even in Karnataka that is coming up, Maharashtra has had these problems of language because language is all about identity. It is who you are. But how does a language actually survive? Why have some languages become obsolete and dead? India, by the way, has 22 official scheduled languages and thousands of dialects without script. As Sheilaji mentioned in the beginning, every few kilometers you go, there is a new language. Tamil itself has different styles of speaking, whether it is in southern or northern Tamil Nadu. But how does a language survive? It is not through politics. It is not through a law that is passed. It will survive only if people speak it, only if literature and content is created in that particular language. And in that we are not doing too well. It's an alarming rate at which books are not being written. Unless there is content, unless there is a vocabulary, there is a national new education policy that has come which says teaching has to be done in the mother tongue. But do we have the vocabulary for that? Do we have the lexicon? All these medical terms or engineering terms, do we know what, if you just write mitochondria in Tamil script, is that enough, or do we need another word to describe that in Tamil? Can new words be created? That is the biggest challenge that languages are facing today, especially in the era of globalization. And one small thing that at least I am doing, it was mentioned in the introduction. There is this venture that we've started called NAV AI, which is navigating AI across vocabularies. So today is a world of technology. We should not say technology is bad, it's going to wipe out everything and so on. Technology can be used for good. It's a double-edged sword. It can be used for the good or for the bad. So what we do at NAV is long texts that are there in languages that we may know, we may not know. So now is the time of artificial intelligence. AI is able to give a first draft of a translation from one language to the other, probably in 1 hour. If I give my own 900-page Tipu Sultan book, in 1 hour I will get it from English to Hindi, just in 1 hour. through the AI. Of course, it is not accurate. It will be about 80% accurate. So then we have language translators who will go through this, revise it, and make it correct to capture all the cultural nuances. So imagine that all the content that we create, whether it is text content, video, audio, all of this, if it is only in English, 5 to 6% of India consumes or understands English. Rest of the soul of Bharat lives in the languages of India. So here we can use technology in a way which doesn't cause friction and fight between people. In real time, I can translate. We are developing an application where as I am talking, maybe with about 20 to 30 seconds lag, you can actually listen to me in Tamil, almost cloned in my kind of voice. So when technology can aid this, all these fights, Hindi imposition, Tamil imposition, all these just go out of the window. And that is how languages can then survive, thrive, and grow in the future. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, I am Yogesh from First to Become General, third section.
Yes.
My question is, as a historian, what is your greatest suggestion to instill in this Indianism in the young mind practically instead of realizing as a Tamilan, Keralite, etc., sir?
That's a good question. I think briefly I touched upon it in the course of my talk, that these regional identities are important, no doubt, but I think this awareness that comes from stories of our past, like I mentioned the example of, say, Kashi. There are numerous such places which is a common shared civilizational memory, common sense of affection, common sense of belonging, even while you maintain your individual identity. So there is a sub-nationalism, a regional nationalism, which is legitimate, which needs to be there, and a lot of it deriving also from linguistic reasons. But the consciousness also needs to be there that our history has taught us that when we did not think of ourselves as one unitary whole, as India, we have always suffered. We have always lost. As I mentioned in the talk too, the history gives us these opportunities to learn lessons from the past so that those mistakes are never committed again to our detriment. So I think that is an important lesson we can find through all these various examples of oneness. We talk about unity in diversity. We are not rejecting the diversity. That is our strength. That is our beauty. But unitedly, we do have a common identity. That is what all these examples of history that I gave should inculcate in us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Yan Logasti from First Become BM. How to reform history syllabus to study and explore further facts in school days?
Wonderful. Make me the education minister of India. That is the simple answer. No, that's, I don't want to enter politics at all, but that's a fantastic question which hits the nub of the issue. Thank you for asking this. See, we keep complaining, history is distorted, and we blame the colonial past, we blame our education ministers, Nehru, Marxist historians, all of these people. But what are we doing about it ourselves? That was a question that plagued me for a very, very long time. And maybe I will write a few books. There was other authors, Dr. Pradeep Chakravarti and others, who write books. How many books can we write in our lifetime? Maybe a few. But the work that needs to be done is so immense. So with that in mind, Gandhiji had a very famous quote. It says, be the change that you want to see. You should do something yourself without always blaming others and so on. So with that in mind, I think in the introduction it was mentioned, I've started this foundation called the Foundation for Indian Historical and Cultural Research, FIHCR. Some of you could see it on the website also. It is a foundation to foster new scholarship in Indian history and to get rid of some of these distorted facts based on evidence. History cannot be written on rhetoric, on imagination, emotion, because as I said, it is a cold fact of the past. It has to be mentioned as it is based on the evidence that I collect. So in FIHCR, that is what we do. We are creating so much of content and knowledge there, where through multiple things that we do, and I'll just take this opportunity to introduce you and the others in the room to FIHCR and its activities, and you could participate in your own ways in it. One is we have a fellowship that is started in the name of Sir Jadunath Sarkar, the famous nationalist historian from Bengal, whom everyone has forgotten, in his name. And so anybody who wants to do a research on a topic of your choice, they write to FIHCR. Every year we call for fellowship applications, and a very rigorous process is followed of interviewing them and so on. And at the end of it, about 5 to 10 scholars are selected every year. And through the course of the year, we give them a very generous stipend of about 15 lakhs to each person, and also a lot of mentorship and guidance in primary research, how to access the archives, how to actually get access in numerous places. And the ask from them is at the end of that 1 year, they must come up with a publish-worthy manuscript. So every year you see 5 to 10 books coming out like this is one part of the foundation's objectives. The second is a research and projects division. Now I mentioned in the talk that our history is written in languages we don't understand. We depend on Western translations. So for me as a modern historian today to learn Sanskrit and Persian and Arabic, it may take me some 2-3 lifetimes. So instead what in the research team we do, we constitute multidisciplinary groups where a modern historian with a language scholar and various other scholars, jointly we discuss a particular issue and come out with books. So we're doing the first set of books on the history of Buddhism in Bharat, its rise and fall, where along with me there is also an archaeologist, someone who knows Pali, Tibetan, Buddhist philosopher, so multidisciplines coming together. Similarly, we're doing one to debunk the Aryan invasion myth about which I spoke, and that's not a history problem. You need a genetics and a molecular biology person, a metallurgy person, everyone sitting together, and the output will then be books which will come out. But all of this will be useless if it just is for adults and gray-haired people. I think the change actually happens only when children and young adults like yourself are given access to this. So one pillar of the foundation is called Yuva, which actually takes all this history, heavy-duty stuff, to children and young adults through books, through multimedia, through virtual reality, programs that we have. So just imagine someone sitting in Kashmir, say, and we have this thing on the Chola Brihadishwara temple. You put on the headset, you feel you're walking through the Gopurams and going and seeing Brihadishwara temple yourself, and the teacher then comes and gives you a brief talk about Chola history. That is going to remain in the child's mind much more than mugging up something and then vomiting it in the exams. So through modern technology, and then getting all of this out in multiple languages of India, which is what I mentioned earlier using AI. So all of this, and in fact, I would urge the school teachers and principals here, we also run a Sri Aurobindo National History Essay Writing Competition every year for students of grade 6 to 9. The competition is currently open. It will end on 30th of January. So I would urge and welcome your students also to apply to this. And prizes are given out by the Education Minister himself, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan. And the best essays are then published in a book so that, a 6th standard child seeing his or her essay published, goes a long way in creating a sense of pride in them. So my simple answer after this long answer to your question is the solution to distorted history, as you mentioned, is scholarship, scholarship, and more scholarship. There is no other alternative.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste, sir. I'm just Surya Prabha from first BCA Science section. I have one question.
Yes.
In what way of the Indian rituals and customs have the historical and practical significance, sir?
Can you please say that again?
in what way of the Indian rituals and customs have historical and practical significance, sir?
So, see, a lot of just the amazement of the fact, right? Like, we never wrote down everything, right? There was transmission only through oral education, Guru Shishya Parampara that was there. And that is the reason why all of this, I mentioned, Nalanda was burnt and so on, so much knowledge was destroyed. But so much of it still remained only because these were taught word of mouth. Our rituals, our language, our knowledge systems, a lot of it to destroy, for the invader, to destroy us completely, you have to kill each and every person because the library was here. This library, I mean, you can burn one library, two libraries. How many libraries will you cut off? And if you look at the way this Ghanapatha that is done in the Vedic systems, just out of curiosity and amazement, you think not only the verses are retained, but also the swara in which it has to be chanted. Udatta swara, anudatta swara, what goes up. So through the hand movements, if you have seen some of these Ghanapathis, and recently you had this young boy who did this, Parayanam, where 2 lakh verses of the Yajurveda in a beautiful manner, how to, break that mantra into various subparts, tell it in all different forms so that it is retained. It should be an amazing curiosity for us that this is how our ancestors retained all of this. So when you look at a ritual, or when you look at an ancient book, or someone reciting it in the exact intonation that it has to be, which is why you need a guru to teach you that, and you cannot just read it from a book with the Vedic Parayanams and so on. You see that it almost is like a living archive. Over centuries, people have memorized it in such a way that it can never go away from our head. And today we Indians are complaining about rote learning. We want a new education policy which doesn't put pressure on the children's mind to learn everything by memory. People did it so easily in the midst of so much of catastrophes. People were coming, looting the houses, burning your libraries, but still the knowledge remained. Just that amazement as to how did they do this? Can I know about this a bit? Can I also get a glimpse of that? I think that is what, when you look at it and not look at it, oh, this is some superstition. No, it is not. Every aspect of that, how they calculated the, astronomical details, the tithi, the exact precision with which, without all those equipments that now are there of modern science, how did they manage to do that? How did they manage to perform complicated human surgeries, including plastic surgery and so on? All of this is not just archival value, but I think it should dazzle us, and it should give in us a sense of amazement and curiosity, and try to learn a little bit of it.
Okay,
Thank you.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
Thank you.
Namaste, sir. I'm Chadana from First BCom CA. My question is about what made the present state pattern of India?
What made the present?
State pattern of India.
Oh, okay. So this is of course, it's after independence, before independence, you had 565 princely states. And that itself is a huge task. On the one hand, you had a partition that was done on religious lines. As I said earlier, very hurriedly people had to migrate between the borders. Just one line was drawn by this man called Radcliffe, who had never seen India before. He came here, and within 2 days he had to get to work. So they just drew a line and said, this is East Pakistan, West Pakistan, then this is India. And so people just scampered around. There were violence, communal riots, killings, millions displaced. And after that, within India too, there were so many, 565, imagine 565 princely states, and the British presidency, Madras presidency, Bombay, Calcutta presidency, and so on. So someone like a Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who is called the Iron Man of India, he integrated all these states into, the Maharajas had to sign treaties of accession to join the Indian Union. And so that is how all these rajas and princes, they acceded to the Indian Union. Now, after that, the thing was, how do we, you can't have 565 different units to govern, and someone sitting in Delhi and governing so many people. So then a lot of agitation started happening in different parts of India based on language, linguistic identity. So it was decided that everybody who speaks a certain language, let us group them together so that this will keep them united or unified. Where language, the first question as to why language was important, it unifies you into an identity. And so all our state, by the State Reorganization Committee that was established in 1956, I guess, where all states were carved out of this unwieldy mass of 565 princely states and presidencies into modern Indian states that we see today, which are all based on language. So each state can celebrate its own, language, but as a link language, it was decided, there was a three-language formula or policy where Hindi and English were both to operate as official languages. So those who don't know Hindi, particularly those from the South, Bengal, other parts who did not want Hindi, they could also communicate through English. But at the same time, the state language was very important. So here also you have this Tamil Thai anthem and all of this. There's a state anthem, but as was the other person had asked, there is that consciousness and adherence that they all belong to the larger nation. Even Karnataka has a state anthem which says, Bharata Jananiya Tanu Jate. So the Janani or the mother is Bharata, Bharat Mata, and the Kannada Thai is just a Tanu Jate, or a daughter of the mother. So that was how the founding fathers and mothers of this country decided to recalibrate this country and at least make it functionally operative. Otherwise, it would have been anarchy to rule so many different states, fighting with each other and so on. So that was how the modern states were created.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Namaste, sir. I am Divya from first BCom section. My question is, what concept or area of research we do now in history to make all understand the core tradition and helps our country to improve?
Several areas, as I would say. So while we speak, so archaeological excavations that happen, we saw some in Dholavira. We saw excavations in Sinoli in Haryana. So we have these ancient, the iron chariots and the horses that were there. So we get an idea as to when actually when did the horses start becoming a part of the Indian battle system, when were various implements used of various metals and so on. So archaeology becomes a bedrock for a lot of research which can change the way we look at our past. But along with archaeology, I think, so when we talk of historical research, you do it through something called sources. So sources are different. Archaeological sources are one. The other is epigraphical sources, which is inscriptions. So our ancestors had very beautiful ways of documentation. We were not like the West, which just wrote down things in a book, and that too in chronological fashion. If you go to the Brihadishwara Koil in Tanjavur, on the walls, you have all these inscriptions which have the names of even, who were the Devadasis who danced in the temple, how much salary they got, what was their mother's name, their address, everything, and also the, medical facilities that were given to people. All of this is inscribed in temple walls. So that was a form of, documentation which we have not yet unearthed fully. So epigraphic documentation. The other one is textual sources, literary sources, and that is in a plethora of languages. As I mentioned, most of the languages we don't know. So our history is unknown to us only. So textual source is another way of doing that research. And a fourth and another important, very difficult way of reconstructing the past is oral history. What was not written down was spoken by people. As I said, through spoken means is how language and knowledge was preserved and transmitted. So through folk tales, oral stories, wherever there are gaps in documentation, maybe the documents were destroyed, they were burnt, their oral history is also an important way of reconstructing. So think of it like putting a jigsaw puzzle. You know, you have a past which is so shrouded, full like a fog and mist you can barely see. So clutching onto some fragments, some archaeological evidence, some literary evidence, some inscriptions, coins, numismatics, and oral history. A historian is trained to do that put all these jigsaw puzzle pieces together, and somewhat a picture emerges, which may not be absolutely correct, but to an extent. I think I like to say this several times. A lot of us learned this poem when we were growing up called The Blind Men and the Elephant. Right? So there is a elephant that comes into a room, and there are 4 blind men, and these blind men are said, just tell me what the elephant looks like. So one of the blind man touches the trunk and says, oh, elephant is very long. Then one blind man touches the tusk of the elephant and says, elephant is very sharp. Then one touches the tail and says, elephant is very thin. Someone touches the body of the elephant and says, oh, elephant is very broad. Now, they are all correct in their assessment of what the elephant is, but they're all wrong also, because the elephant is the sum of the parts. What A plus B plus C plus D said, that is equal to the elephant here. So here, history is the elephant, and all of us historians are blind men. Whatever little we are getting to see, we are trying to take that out, and from that, reconstruct, what is the past. So if you're a student of history, it teaches you the biggest virtue, which is humility. You can't be arrogant that I know everything. You can't know, because there's something else. Maybe I did not touch that part of the elephant, and so the description is incomplete. So I think that is how historical research takes into account multiple dimensions to reconstruct the past.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Namaste, sir. I am Praveen from First BCA. How did ancient Indian universities like Takshila and Nalanda contributes to global education?
So, like I was mentioning in the talk, there were several subjects that were taught here, which drew scholars from various parts of the world. We've all heard of, Chinese travelers like Fahian, Hyun Sang, all these people who used to come, and they have written elaborately that, how the viharas were, what sort of education was provided there. I think the amount of knowledge that this country produced during that time in various fields, it could be, spirituality, philosophy, all of that is one part, but also science, metallurgy, how we understood Rasayana Shastra or chemistry. You have that pillar near Qutub Minar, right, which is of the Gupta time, iron pillar, which after so many centuries and all the exposure to the weather, it's not got rusted. So our technology in all of those aspects, medicine, as I mentioned, Sushruta, Charaka, all these people who wrote their samhitas on medical science, Ganita Shastra, how they managed to do complicated multiplications, which today we want a calculator, in what is now called as Vedic mathematics. You can do a long, very big thing in very simple, in no time. You have people like Shakuntala Devi, who was the human magician who could do all this 10-digit number into another 10-digit number. In 1 second, she will tell you the answer. So all these different knowledge systems that grew here in various fields, language itself, especially, not only Nalanda and others, also Kashmir. Kashmir was literally, so Shankaracharya, after he established the 4 Peethams that I spoke about, he established what is called the Sarvagnya Peetha in Kashmir. The all-knowing Sarvagnya, because that was the seat of knowledge in this country. And that is why to this day, that is being destroyed, the maximum. Its presiding deity was Sharada Devi. And the script there is also called Sharada script. Incidentally, 19th January today is 36 years of the displacement of the Kashmiri Pandits who are living in their own country in refugee camps for 36 years. These were the repositories of knowledge who created all this knowledge for us in various fields. And that knowledge spread to all parts of the world. You know, when the Ashokan emissaries and others, through southern India, they went to Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia. Buddhism migrated out of India through these various routes. That was through Pali. But later you had the Mahayana Buddhism, which used Sanskrit. And Kashmir was one important center, along with Nalanda. And from there, the knowledge systems went to China, to Japan, to Southeast Asia, various parts, Central Asia. So we were like this glowing ball of knowledge which emanated the rays to every part of the world. We have obviously lost that because the physical infrastructure has been destroyed. The knowledge systems, whatever we still have, as I mentioned, it is there, but the actual manuscripts, books, all of those have been burnt or destroyed. And beyond the destruction, the British education which followed. You had Macaulay, who is infamous for introducing British education. He says that the whole objective of English education in India, in his what is infamous, the Minutes of Macaulay, 1835, the whole objective is to create a vast class of interpreters between us, the rulers, and the millions we govern, who are Indian in their blood and their skin color, but they are British in their tastes, opinions, morals, and intellect. And that Macaulayism lives with us to this day. We are just Indian because of a certain skin color and our this thing, but our taste, the kind of dresses we wear, the kind of language we speak, our opinions, our morals, our intellect, all of it has been shaped. That was the third difficult aspect of colonialism that I spoke about, capture of the mind, which is very tough to shirk off. So these knowledge centers that India had, where knowledge is worshipped in the form of a goddess, Sharada Devi, I think that is very unique. Very few countries of the world had that. And it is time to at least know about it first and then try to brick by brick reclaim it. Everything cannot be reclaimed because a lot of it is lost. Thank you.
Namaste, sir. I am K. Achya from first BCA first section. பாரதத்தோட வரலாறு வந்து நினைக்கும் போது பெருமையாக இருக்குது. இப்போ சுதந்திரம் அடைஞ்சதுக்கப்புறம் அந்த வரலாறு ஏன் மறைக்கப்படுது, ஏன் எங்களுக்கு தெரியலை சார்?
I can reply in English, right? I understood the question. Pardon my Macaulay, I'm a Macaulay Putra, so I will continue with this horrible medium of transmission. That's a very good question because I really think, you know, we got independence only in that, out of those three dimensions I mentioned, political, economic, and cultural, we got independence only in the first, in I think 1947. Slowly, I mean, even after independence, the economy tottered so badly. It was derisively called Hindu rate of growth. You know, there the Hindu word is great, but for the rest of it, it is not a Hindu nation. So deeply influenced by Western philosophy, especially the communist and socialist ideas, that infiltrated every aspect of our lives, whether it is how we saw the economy, state control of economy, till 1991 when economic liberalization actually opened the doors of Indian economy. We were captive, state controlled everything, and you're all commerce students, you would know how the economy also progressed after independence. Politically, we were somewhat free, but these aspects, you know, continued. And the communist or the Marxist ideology worldwide is largely about that, where Karl Marx, he shows, you know, history is a constant class struggle. It is conflicts. Someone is fighting with somebody else all the time. That is their idea of history itself. So there is an upper caste versus lower caste. There is an Aryan versus a Dravidian. There is a Hindu versus a Muslim. There are always 2-3 groups constantly fighting with each other. And the Marxist ideology of how history of civilizations has progressed in the world is through this. History as class struggle, conflicts all the time, and then out of that a resolution comes. So I think in that aspect, nobody could understand that India has a very unique answer to everything. If the whole world says one thing, we have a different answer in some other direction. So we believed in coexistence also. We had other modes of survival, which probably went outside the understanding of the communist framework. And dare I say that our first Prime Minister was very much inspired by communist ideals. And so, even if you see his Discovery of India that he wrote, he was not a historian, but still he wrote a Discovery of India, that book. And that became the template for all the historians to follow. And anybody who did not follow that, they paid a very, very heavy price in the initial decades after freedom. You had one of the greatest historians, Dr. R.C. Majumdar, Romesh Chandra Majumdar, who, like Jadunath Sarkar, was one of the fantastic historians of those times, who wanted to do a history of the freedom movement after 1947, just after. And by then, a lot of people who fought for freedom were still alive, so he could interview them and so on. So the government of India constituted a commission to write the history of freedom movement. Now, Dr. Majumdar was a very honest and self-respect person. He said, I am not going to be a court historian. I am going to very honestly write everything. The aspects I mentioned about revolutionaries. He had a very critical view of Gandhi's movement or the Congress's involvement in freedom movement. All of that, he said, I am going to write this as it is. A person of his eminence who had so many degrees, so many awards from everywhere, he was summarily removed from that committee, and some bureaucrat who was not even a historian of the modern history, he was made in charge of the project to write the official Government of India account of what freedom movement was. And there, history is written by the victor, the winner. So here, the Congress, the Gandhian movement had won in a way, and the representative was the Prime Minister. So naturally, the historians also use that same template. And these come in very, very subtle ways. We were discussing with Swamiji, with Sheilaji, others in the morning, that the two people whom we call the great is Ashoka the Great and Akbar the Great. Now, Ashoka also, it comes with a certain underlining feature that violence is bad. He was a pacifist. Whereas his own edicts actually show that 2 or 3 years before the Kalinga war, he had already become a Buddhist. I mean, he had taken to Buddhist learning. There was no conversion as such, but he was very inspired by Buddhist philosophy. Even while he was doing that, he had slaughtered so many Jainas, Ajivikas, and others who did not believe in him. But the Discovery of India template that came, when he was a Hindu, he attacked all these people. He was called Chanda Ashoka. Then after the Kalinga war, he was totally taken in by remorse and repentance. So he gave up that thing and he took to Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. So that sort of a thing which shows that, and that's why we have the Ashoka Chakra in our flag. So we are not allowed to take up weapons. We have to be calm. We got our freedom also through non-violent means. This idea that has been dimmed in the process, several heroes, including what you mentioned, Mardu brothers, Mardu Pandyans, their history either is forgotten or it becomes a footnote. And that has played a huge impact on the self-respect, the self-esteem. After independence, Gandhi, in fact, wanted to dismantle the Indian army itself. We don't need an army now, we have got freedom. And while the freedom was still coming, you had tribes attacking Kashmir from Pakistan. There were Pakistani soldiers coming as tribals, taking away a part of your, state. And here we were thinking, we don't need an army at all now. Why we are free now? Who will attack us? When we don't attack anyone, this self-righteousness that we've had, Savarkar used to call it Sadguna Vikriti, which we have suffered from in all our previous historical this thing. We have certain unwritten rules of law, war. After sunset, nobody should fight. Women, children, and all these people should not be attacked. We have all these codes of conduct. But the opponent, especially the Middle East, the Turks, Arabs, they didn't care for all of this. Even if you're running away from behind, they will kill you, they will break your places of worship, they will loot your property. Children and women are molested. All of this was happening. But I am saying, oh, I believe in the greatness of this. That is called Sadguna Vikriti. You have your ethics. That is not going to give you a gold medal anywhere. Everybody has to subscribe to the club rules. Only then those rules make sense. Now, if my opponent is not following those rules, I will say, no, I am a very good boy. Even if you beat me, I will show you the other cheek. That sort of an attitude is not going to take you too far. So I think in the process, our history writing was influenced by all these factors, which made it a very distorted version, and all these legitimate heroes and heroines whom I mentioned too, including the Maradu Pandyans, were forgotten.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The problem if you give a historian a mic is they will not stop. So that is, you please let me know if I'm exceeding the time by any. Everyone is hungry enough of history for today. Yes.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
I am Prabhashni from first year BSc A and ML, and my question is, I want to write a book, Royal of Tamil Nadu, then how to arrange the topic and what areas to explore?
You want to write about the royals of Tamil Nadu?
Yes,
Which
sir.
all kingdoms are you looking at? Which all kingdoms would you want to?
You can suggest.
Okay. So right from the Cholas, who ruled for 1,000 years with various gaps and so on, then the Pandyas, and going later to, of course, the Vijayanagar, and then the Nayakas, going up to the Marathas of Tanjavur. That is going to be a mammoth volume. You will be covering several hundreds of years of history. I think sources would be there. There would be a lot of work in Tamil, which is there, especially Chola history. The Cholas were such great documenters, and I'm sure tomorrow you have people like Dr. Chitra Madhavan and others who speak so eloquently on Chola history. They maintained their inscriptions and documentation in duplicate or triplicate. Same thing would be on a palm leaf, a copper plate, and also on the temple walls, inscriptions. Some maintained in Tamil, some maintained in Sanskrit. So various ways, so that if one is destroyed, another is also retained. So those sources will be important. Then you have so much of Sangam era, poetry, literature, which one can access. So it's going to be a mammoth task. Your hair may turn gray by the end of you finishing your royals of Tamil Nadu, but I wish you all the very best with the grace of the Guru. I'm sure you will do a stupendous job, and we'll be proud to introduce you as a historian coming from this institution. Tathastu.
Dhanyavad.
Thank you so much, everyone. Those questions were really thought-provoking, and I think this was more enjoyable than my monologue. Thank you. Thank you. Namaskaram.
Thank you, sir, for answering every query of these curious young adults. Now, it's time to honor our speakers' efforts of bringing the unexpected vistas of Indian history to us. I invite Madam Chairperson onto the dais to honor Dr. Vikram Sampath.
Please ensure that she writes it. Hold her to account.
Our Madam Chairperson is honoring our speaker with a shawl, and she is presenting him with a memento. Now our speaker wants to present a collection of books for the school library to Madam Chairperson as a token of his gratitude and reverence.
We have the missing rocks of Hampi by Mala Kumar. We have The Merchant of Nagapattinam by Harini Srinivasan, in Tamil also. Nagapattinathu Vanigar. Then our living heritage, essays by Young India. Young people have written this part of the foundation. Then we have The Rise of the Ancient Indians, Cities, Art and Trade. And then we have Mega Co-Leaders by Pradeep Chakravarti. So all of these to instill and inspire our young school students into the art of history.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir. With this, the knowledge-packed morning session of this inaugural day of the 20th convention comes to an end. Okay, let's meet again in a musical evening. Today's concert will start by 4 p.m. in the evening. The audience are expected to assemble at the auditorium by 3:45 p.m. Students, please maintain silence. Students are expected to be seated